It's the 4th of July in Washington, D.C. More than 500,000 people have their eyes on the skies. They're celebrating our country's independence in the traditional way, with fireworks. Tonight, 15,000 pounds of paper balls will be hurled skyward and explode into a cacophony of color and sound. For these guys, it's like Christmas, New Year's, and the Super Bowl all rolled into 20 minutes. To get here takes hours of hard work, miles of travel, and months of planning. On this day, they will finally hear the words they've waited so long to hear.
Three, two, ready, one.
Fireworks. It's fall in Tennessee. The volunteers are scoring touchdowns. And the crew from Pyro shows is adding the exclamation point. Touchdown fireworks are one of the many types of pyrotechnic entertainment they shoot. In eastern Tennessee, if you see a fireworks show, there's a good chance it's been produced by Pyro shows. They're based just north of Knoxville in La Follette, Tennessee. Lansden Hill is the owner.
Well, La Follette, Tennessee is one of the best places in the world you could ever hope to live. It's a very small East Tennessee town in the mountains, around the Smoky Mountains, just north of Knoxville. Have about 7,000 or 8,000 people if everybody's at home.
Pyro Shows has been shooting fireworks all over the world for more than 40 years.
We were selected to go to the United Arab Emirates to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the founding of that country, which was an incredible experience. We did the fireworks for the city of Jacksonville during Super Bowl and won the North American fireworks competition a few years ago in Virginia Beach, Virginia. But I think the premier show is the Washington, D.C. show.
And this year, it's Pyro Show's big show. And even though it's 10 months away, the long journey begins today. First stop, China. Almost every fall, representatives from Pyro Shows visit China. Not only is it the birthplace of fireworks, but it's still the world's largest producer of entertainment fireworks. On this trip, Pyro Shows will visit 7 factories and see 12 demonstrations in 10 days. They will travel the country from Hong Kong to Beijing.
And it's a pretty hard trip. I mean, we cover a lot of miles or a lot of kilometers in a very short period of time, sometimes visiting 2 or maybe even 3 factories in one day. It's not uncommon to see 2 demonstrations in the same night.
Today starts in central China. Luoyang is the self-proclaimed fireworks capital of the world. More than 1,000 companies produce fireworks in this region. Sunny Fireworks is the first stop here. This factory is typical of most. It is spread over many acres. This ensures that in case of an accident, it will be confined to a small area.
Making a star, rolling a star there.
As they tour the factory, they see the entire process of how firework shells are made.
So this is red to greater silver to purple peony.
To find out how fireworks work, we went to the expert. Dr. John Conkling is the former executive director of the American Pyrotechnics Association and is currently a professor at Washington College in Chestertown, Maryland. He knows a lot about fireworks.
We can trace fireworks back over 1,000 years to China. They discovered black powder, the original gunpowder. They made skyrockets, they made firecrackers out of black powder. The technology made its way to Europe. There was a huge fireworks industry in Europe in the 1600s, 1700s, primarily for the royal family. The king got married, fireworks. Royal birth, fireworks. Coronation, fireworks. So it's interesting when fireworks made their way to the colonies in the 1700s and the U.S. declared its independence from royalty, we celebrated with fireworks. And take that, they're ours now. It's been a part of America ever since. A firework is chemistry in action. It's a device that has a chemical mixture or several chemical mixtures that burn. And in burning, they create colors, they create sparks, they create audible effects. The chemist can blend different chemicals together to produce different colors, different visible effects, different audible effects, but by selecting one oxygen donor over another, one fuel over the other, you also can control the burn rate to go from a flash of color to a much longer duration color. You can get various combinations of effects, color and sparks. The first mixture, I've added some strontium carbonate to. The element strontium, burning in a flame, will impart a red flame color. So just by adding a small amount of a strontium chemical, we cause the flame color to turn to a deep red. Blue is the toughest color for a pyrotechnician to produce. Copper will give you a blue, but it's a weak blue at best. It disappears if your chemistry gets slightly out of whack. So if you're watching a show and you see a pretty blue up in the sky, that's one of the ultimate holy grails of pyrotechnics, to get a really deep blue color. Fireworks shell, which is certainly the ultimate in the art of putting on a fireworks display, is a device fired from a tube called a mortar. There's a charge of gunpowder, and then a fuse that runs down into the bottom of the firework item. The gunpowder explodes in the bottom in this tube, produces pressure, and throws this up in the air. There's a time delay fuse inside the shell that starts burning, and it's designed to go several seconds and roughly 100 feet per inch diameter. To get it to burst, there's another charge of gunpowder in the center of the device, and that's going to burst open this cardboard casing. And we have little pellets of chemical mixture called stars that are packed around that bursting charge. And depending on the chemicals that you make those stars, those pellets out of, it'll burn with a red flame, green flame, white flame, may crackle, produce sparks. The pattern shell is one of the newest advances in the technology of fireworks. It's done by taking a sphere, but there are two hemispheres that you put together to assemble the device. It's the larger the shell, the better the effect you can produce, but you get a piece of paper and glue or attach these stars, these pellets, in the shape of the figure you want to create. So you would have a star shape on this sheet of paper. You then put some gunpowder in one hemisphere, and then you lay your pattern on top of the gunpowder, more gunpowder on top, close the sphere. When that shell explodes up in the sky, those stars keep their same configuration.
All fireworks are handmade by skilled workers. Ball shells are the most common. They start with cardboard hemispheres. A hole is punched into the shell, and a small tube is glued to the hole. This is where the timer fuse will go. Each half is carefully filled with stars and the bursting charge, and then sealed. The tools look primitive, but they're made of wood and other non-sparking materials for safety. Even a small spark can be explosive in a fireworks factory. Next, the shells are pasted with paper and dried. The layers control the burst of the shell. This process takes weeks to complete. Finally, these workers add the lifting charge. As evening approaches at the factory, the demonstration is about to begin.
"15 seconds.
We saw anywhere from 1 to 3 shows a night. We saw a variety of product. Then we would go to a test facility. We would be given score sheets. Each of the shells was listed And what we do is we would go through and rate the shell on a variety of areas.
It's an art form, not just a science, even though as every year progresses, science seems to play a bigger and bigger role in the better colors, the new effects, the new ideas. But the Chinese take a lot of pride in their fireworks. And of course, they have great skilled craftspeople, and they do a marvelous job putting together a lot of really cool stuff.
The fireworks ordered in China are made in the fall and shipped across the ocean. In February, the first shells for this year's 4th of July arrive in Tennessee. They are put in a magazine for storage until summer. Their ultimate destination is here. 7 days before the 4th of July, Pyro Show starts the long process of moving their equipment into place along the reflecting pool. It's a tricky maneuver to squeeze a 53-foot tractor trailer around the World War II memorial.
We are going to go ahead and spot this one. They said 10 needs to go in first. So we need to spot it?
Bob Crapsey inches the truck along, precisely to get the trailers into position. On this long night, he will make the trip 4 times.
The next thing is the hard work. You pull a 53-foot trailer full of 6-inch racks in there, and there's nothing you can do but sweat and hard work.
These racks hold the mortar tubes to fire the 6-inch fireworks.
You're going to pull the 6-inch racks off. The 6-inch racks weigh approximately 60 pounds apiece. You're probably going to pull between 500 and 1,000 of those things off. You get those together, and that's you're pretty much looking at a full 10-hour day just to get those mortars off that truck and get them in position and get them nailed together.
At this point in the process, no fireworks are on site. They are secured off-site at a remote location. The next day, the first firework shells arrive at the launch site. Every one of the 2,500 tubes has to be filled with the right shell. Scott Goins is the crew leader for the DC show and makes sure every shell gets loaded properly.
119, it's showing 6/6 in that.
This is Scott's 6th DC show and his 20th year with Pyro shows. This year, he's on location with his son, Matt, who's been shooting fireworks since he was 18. The boxes containing the firework shells are sealed with a Park Service seal. In June, the Park Service traveled to La Follette to inventory all the shells being fired in the Washington, D.C. show. The Park Service is responsible for the fireworks show because it's fired on the National Mall. Each individual shell is counted, recorded, and boxed up. Then the entire container is sealed until delivered to the secured storage site in D.C. When the fireworks enter the launch site, the security level goes up. District of Columbia Fire Department and other safety officials begin to appear, and strict rules are followed. The largest shell in this show is 10 inches in diameter. One shell has enough energy to destroy a small building. Pyro Shows has taken great care to protect its pyrotechnicians during a show. They are so concerned about safety that they recently did some testing to improve the chances of surviving a catastrophic malfunction.
We were a little bit concerned about what some of the codes and what some of the regulations say is safe for our technicians to get behind when they're on a barge out on the water shooting fireworks. We decided that we would get Ken Kasanke to come down with his high-speed video camera, and we would simulate some possible accidents you might have on a barge.
I mean, in this case, you want to find out how effective a safety shelter is going to be from, say, the direct impact of aerial shells. So what do? You fire aerial shells right at, the equivalent of a safety shelter, and you see what happens. It's not high science. It's just, I mean, well, it's simple stuff.
Our first set of tests were directed at the use of a 3/4 inch plywood bunker that had 3/4 inch sidewalls, front wall, and roof.
One of the problems we found very early on is that even the smallest typical shell that's used in fireworks displays, a 3-inch aerial shell, will penetrate substantially through 3/4 inch plywood.
So our second test was to put a deflection shield at a 45-degree angle, and we discovered that it would protect you for a 3-inch shell, but not a 4-inch shell. So then we took the 3/4 inch shield and laminated it with sheet metal and kept it at a 45-degree angle, and discovered that it would actually deflect a shell up through 6 inches in diameter.
Another experiment was developed to test the structure of a shipping container, sometimes used for a control bunker during shows. They shot aerial shells directly at the metal box.
We basically started at 3 inches, 3-inch shells, and went all the way up to 12-inch shells. And as the progression went on, basically what you would see was a little dent, and the dent gets a little bigger, and then the dent gets a little bigger, and the dent gets a little bigger, and then we got up to 6, 8, and 10-inch shells where you were getting really big dents, but the integrity of the structure was not compromised at all.
10-inch shell still didn't burn through it. Of course, the dents are getting deeper.
12-inch peony.
The final shell to be tested is a 12-inch shell. This shell is almost twice as large by volume than the 10-inch shell.
See what you come out again.
5 seconds.
Everything in the quarry comes to a stop as the huge shell is fired.
3, 2, 1, fire.
There was an horrific explosion.
The shock wave from that thing was just incredible.
I've got to tell you, when we saw the 12-inch shell penetrate the bunker and blow half the sidewall out of it, we were in shock for a while.
Yeah, it was a total shock. And when that particular incident happened, I think there was a whole lot of us that came pretty close to swallowing our tongues because it was tough.
Did you think the hole would be, if it was a hole, it wasn't going to be this big?
I didn't think there was going to be a hole.
You can't ever forget for a second that we're dealing with high-energy products and that safety has to be paramount on our minds at all time.
And I'm really glad that we did it and spent the time and put the effort into doing that, because I feel like that we do have a good plan in place now to protect our people and hopefully others in the firework industry.
In Washington, D.C., the show will be fired from this bunker. It will protect the pyrotechnicians during the show. As the clock ticks down toward July 4th, activity in the site picks up. Gregg Smith, the safety director for the American Pyrotechnics Association, gives tours to the alphabet soup of regulatory agencies based in the D.C. area.
Well, we had Federal Motor Carrier. We had the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, which is PHMSA. We had the CVSA. We had the ATF here from the Explosives Branch. We also had some folks from the Department of Homeland Security and U.S. Secret Service. 95 or 98% of the folks that were here in the last 2 days have never been on a display site before.
As the crew is making final preparations for the show, they cover each mortar with plastic and foil. This will keep moisture out in case of rain, and the foil will keep sparks from prematurely igniting the shell. Earlier this summer, the technicians participated in an annual safety and training seminar. For 2 days, They attended sessions on safety, new technology, and regulatory issues.
Bring it up, swing the shell forward till you catch it on the edge.
Away from the firing point. You don't want it still to be there because it might arc and shoot over another end.
And at the end of the day, they get to shoot fireworks.
We'd like to think that people come to this fireworks training seminar for the classroom activity, but I truly think that if we didn't have the live fire demonstration at the end of the day where people get to go out and actually shoot fireworks, that our attendance would be lower and lower and lower every year.
The ultimate goal is to get everyone properly trained and focused on safety.
And if we go through a show and the audience is entertained, safely entertained, and our technicians are able to perform and safely perform, we've succeeded in what we're trying to do here.
The final tasks are being completed. This includes connecting each shell with an electric match. This allows the shell to be fired electrically. Next, miles of wire are unwound and connected to a junction box. Then the cables are run to the control bunker. Then they troubleshoot the thousands of connections.
188 is still dead.
Hey Jim, check 188 one more time.
You've got the magic touch.
After all the wires are connected and double-checked, the crew can get some rest. Tomorrow is their favorite day of the year, the 4th of July. The trip to the firing site is different on the 4th of July. Today, the crew is escorted into the secured site by Park Service police. All over the city, the celebrations are underway.
We're going to do a parade here shortly at 11:45, and there'll be a couple 100,000 people that'll view that parade. And then as the day goes on, we have a series of concerts on the National Mall. And then later in the evening, we'll do a major concert that's televised by PBS right up in front of the Capitol Hill.
The crew spends the day checking all the connections and testing the audio equipment.
Ready, 77, fire.
Ranger Mike Wilt gives frequent weather updates.
The worst of the weather they're predicting is going to occur between 4 and 8 p.m. this afternoon, with winds around 30 miles an hour, rain with lightning.
As the crowd gathers, the skies darken. Right on schedule, the rains come. The storm was quick and destructive. Limbs and entire trees are knocked down. The crew discovers that the wind has blown off some of the plastic covers. They quickly move into action to save the damaged shells.
We're in the process now of, with a water vac and a portable generator, cleaning the water out of the tubes, drying the tubes, refusing the mortars.
The crew checks every connection once again to make sure nothing else was damaged by the storm. As dusk approaches, the mood changes.
But on the day of the show, you watch the sun. And as you see the sun begin to cast long shadows, you start to get this little lump in your throat. And you're going, you know, like, it's the 4th of July. This is the day.
With 30 minutes to go, the batteries are connected. Now the entire site is energized. The countdown has started.
You're just pumped up, ready to go. You've worked on it, and you want to feel that adrenaline rush of the explosions, of the excitement of the crowd, oohing and awing.
10 seconds.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, ready, 1, fire.
When they go down to the countdown and they get to 3, 2, 1, from that point until it's over, This is our way of entertaining the world. And it's still a rush. It's a rush every time.
Well, when the very first shell goes off, I'm pretty nervous, actually. You know, there's always that chance that it won't go. But once it gets started, you know, I actually probably calm down probably within 2 or 3 minutes of the show to see everything is going good.
It was an awesome show. Excellent group of guys to work with.
As the crowd heads home, the crew starts the long process of cleaning up and loading equipment for the long ride home. The good news is, the 4th of July is only 364 days away.